So I am delighted. I'm Rasheed Ogunlaru, coach, speaker and author. Delighted to be with Imtaz Bespoke Tailor. We've been talking about your background, picking up the needle from about age 6. Started off in Yorkshire, people being interested very early on, coming to London, working in Savile Row and so on. I'm fascinated about one thing. There was a point where you knew all these places like King's Road, Savile Row, and then you moved. Tell me a little bit about that. Is that the artist and you wanting to be in a different kind of space? I mean, because lots of people would think, okay, I've got into the centre and I've made it. What was that about for you?
I think I just sort of felt, well, I was working sort of 7 days a week, and I was in the heart of London, in Bond Street and everything.
And was it a shop kind of environment?
It was
literally
a studio
walking
space,
right.
So clients came in, and I had Kay Burley and all sorts of people coming up there.
Right.
It just, I just felt, oh, I'm not having a life outside of this, so I'm going to find a live-work studio, and I always wanted a live-work studio.
Right.
And then I found this place in Hackney, and so the move. Most people go, oh my God, you were in Bond Street and you moved to Hackney. Yeah. And I just loved it, and it was so vibrant, the area, and I got filmed for BBC London Live. Brenda Amanis came and filmed me from
Brenda's a lovely person, by the way.
She was intrigued by the story of me sort of in a male-dominated world, and Radio 4 did a piece as well.
Well, tell us about that. Now that you're touching on that. Presumably it's not been, I mean, we've been talking about some of the highlights, and we can see, I guess if we go along here, there's some of the highlights here. I can see over here you're with, what's this? Is this getting...
yeah, Prince Charles and Investiture getting an MBE.
So that's an MBE.
Yeah, 2010.
And, and there's some other highlights here. We can see that, I think you're there with David Cameron. And so on. So there are lots of highlights, but I get the feeling that presumably it's not always been easy. I'd imagine that... what have been the challenges, and is it difficult? Are there fewer women on the tailoring side of the business? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think when you think of tailoring, you think of Savile Row and that sort of thing. And so I didn't actually sort of set about sort of going, yes, I'm a tailor and take me seriously, or I didn't really, that wasn't what I set out to do. I just was doing what I love doing. And people were coming, and I was getting sort of Dawn Airy, who's the sort of most powerful woman in media, and in charge of everything, and all sorts of different types of clients, and I was just really serving the clients, and so I wasn't aware that I was sort of breaking new ground, and that type of thing. But it was just I think I just I don't know what to say.
I guess you've just got. Yeah. I guess it sounds to me as though you've always just got on with it.
I just got on with it, and then in 2010 when I got the MBE, and I thought, oh, so I was part of the mainstream. Although I was getting sort of mainstream press, because I was photographed by Jason Bell.
Oh, and this is a lovely photograph. Let's see if I can get this photograph in.
So that was in the Sunday Times, and I was the next big thing, and. And I said, oh, I've actually been going for years and years, but that was me as the next big thing. And, but I suppose my internal story was saying, oh, this is really hard. But I was getting so many breaks. But I was just putting myself out there. I think that's been the key of, persevering and not taking no for an answer.
That's a really good point, because I think that there are, and I know that you do help some young, aspiring people are coming into this business. What for somebody who's watching this and thinking, I'm really inspired by this, and I know that it seems as though we're in a real renaissance around fashion, design, creative industries generally here in the UK, certainly. Well, I mean, what's your general advice for somebody who's listened to this, and maybe she's 6 or he's 6, really liking the sound of what you've done? What would you say are the key things? Because I'd imagine it requires talent and a lot of hard work and perseverance. Tell us a bit about that.
It's learning a skill, so and that you learn at college, and But I was taught by a family friend, and so she was teaching me pattern cutting way before I started studying pattern cutting in college. And my sewing teacher said, "Oh, you can't do this; it's too complicated." And I said, "Yes, I can. I've been doing it." So it's learning the skill, and then then it's perseverance,
Right.
and having confidence in yourself and your ability.
Yes.
You know, because a lot of people, you doubt your own worst critic, aren't you? So you've got your
Hugely.
internal voice saying, "Oh, this isn't good enough. Oh, look at the competition. You know, who's going to come to me?" And you just got to sort of say, yeah, you know, I believe in me.
Yes.
And not be too narcissistic about it, you know.
I think that's such an important point, isn't
And
it?
really believing in your client. So really sort of gaining the essence of who your client is and understanding their need. And then you've got the skill and the creative input to give them. So you've got something to give. And that makes you feel good. So it's just sort of everybody wins. But from a very early age, I think I was just sort of thinking, I love doing this, you know. And years later, I sort of thought, well, maybe, you know, I need to learn about marketing and this type of thing. So I did do a degree in marketing at Westminster.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
And I started teaching straight after.
So tell me a bit about that. I mean, because funny enough, just at that moment, I was thinking about it's one thing, I guess, having a skill in the thing that is your profession. The business side, because I'd imagine that there's a particular point where things are beginning to take off and people are interested in what you're doing, people are buying the stuff. How easy did that come? Is that something that, I mean, I'm impressed by the fact where you decided, actually, I want to go and study marketing and so on. Was that bit easy? And again, is that something that you would really urge people to do, or what's your thoughts there?
I think it is really important to be able to sell what you do, you know, and you know, some people are really lucky. I mean, like I said, you know, I was in the right place at the right time. But then to maintain the success is a lot harder. And in a small business, the most expensive thing is PR and that type of thing. And so if you can do your own PR, because you're your best advocate, really, you can say, oh, you know, I did this, this and this, and be really passionate about what you do.
And I think you do that incredibly well. I mean, it's interesting because my background was a media and PR background, and I think it's one area where lots of creative people often fall down, that they I love the bit that you're talking about, identifying that we can sometimes be our own worst critic and to really believe in your work and believe in your clients. I love that, to follow that flow of the clients, because I just think that's really important. And the fact that you're not shy about saying, this is what I've done, this is the work, and so on. And is that partly deliberate, that you take charge and ownership of that of that particular side? Because I know that you really run with that side.
I think it's become part of my personality.
Right. Yes.
I don't know, and you know, so I was really quite shy. But then I was asked to give talks.
Right.
And then I think I won some award in 2000, and then I started getting asked to give all these talks, and not only in the UK but abroad as well. And then I realised, you know, the journey that I'd been on had taught me lots of things, and you know, and resilience was one of the key things. And now I suppose I've been on a different journey, you know, having children and learning more about compassion. So I've had sort of key things that I've had to learn over the years.
And I like the fact that you talk about that, and I like that. I mean, there's so much that you've said today that I'm fascinated by, and we're running out of time, which is a real shame, because I literally could speak to you all day. I like the fact that there's then been the family journey. And then there's been that compassion journey, which, you know, as a coach is really dear to my heart. Has been balancing all those things, has that been difficult? Is that just, again, part of who it is?
Well, you know, I sort of, you know, as you do when you're a creative and you're a small business, you tend to be working all hours. And I really took my foot off the accelerator after I'd had my second baby. And that was a conscious sort of decision. I think it was really getting to me, just trying to do everything. And I thought, no, I want to prioritise actually my family and this baby that I created, you know, in '91 could take care of itself, you know, in a little bit, you know, because it was getting it just hit 20 years, and so, you know, and growing personally as well. So I thought that was really important because I think when you're creating, you need to you need to revive some of the passion that you've had, and keep the creativity going, but know who you are as well.
Yeah.
And I think you grow as a person. So that person who wanted to move to Bond Street and do all of that, sort of working 7 days a week. This person now is not that same person, so you're evolving. But the market also is changing as well. But then you give a different message to people, and so different people come to you because they like the fact that you're giving them a sort of a friendly environment to learn or to have tailoring. It's not it's cutting away all the sort of because I learned the techniques of marketing, which is put status to it and do this and do that. Whereas people are really just human, and they want the human touch. So
quite right.
Yeah, to actually have a friendly person. You just want a smiley, friendly person.
Hugely, and I just love the fact that you talk about these different journeys. Just before we close, just two things I really wanted to touch on. One is about your inspiration and what inspires you now. And the second is about the work that you do with young people. Could you just tell us very briefly about that? I understand that you sometimes do, is it masterclasses or workshops? Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
I mean, I get people coming from Hong Kong, Singapore, Tokyo, New York, and Brazil. And
is it because they want to be mentored by you? They found you, or
to do the classes? So they've either gone through doing a degree and they haven't learned how to, sort of make a block pattern. And so I teach them how to do a pattern, how to make a toile, how to do fittings. And so I teach them from my lessons that I've learned the hard way. So just say, well, if you do this and do this, and make it look easy, because I think it can be quite daunting when you think, oh, here's, how can I reach that standard? And that could almost put you off from learning something. Whereas if you just make it accessible, and that's what I try to do, is just make it really accessible.
Really like that.
And get them doing something, and then they're enthusiastic. Oh, I can do this, and I could set up a business. And
that's amazing. I think that's really amazing, Imtaz. I just think that's really very, very powerful when people do take that time to support those people who are passionate about that. And finally, tell us a little bit about what inspires you. Is it the fabric? Because I can see here we've got a rail of fabric. Is it about the fabrics? Is it about ideas? What is it?
Well, I think the fabrics are really important because I suppose, my parents were in mills and from Pakistan, and it's got the history of fabric.
I think what's interesting about that whole part of the world, there's such, fabric, colour, clothes, style, dance life is so rich, isn't it? So I guess that's part of it too, isn't it?
And
dressing up.
And that was the thing with my dad. He was just when he started doing well. I mean, he worked in the textile mills and then he set up businesses and things. It was a good time for people who had immigrated. And so he set up one business, set up another, and so as soon as he started doing well, he started having bespoke tailored suits. You see, and my brothers had suits, and they were just 10 and 8. Well, I made my own clothes, because we'd go to the silk shops and buy silks. And I thought, but I want one of those suits,
Right. Well, I'm just thinking about that. Mindful of time. Can you show us something? Because I know that people are going to be watching this, and they're kind of like, "Can you show us a suit? Can you show us something? Is there an item that you've got? I mean, not anything that you've got here that you want to bring to our attention, or just the dress that I did for Sean Lloyd, which was on the cover of Hello. So it's this cover of Hello here.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yes.
So that I mean, it wasn't. It was sort of really. I had 1 week to work on it, and
my goodness.
It was quite a quick. And the one next to it is just me, sort of in the Guardian, and it was all about our fashion students being sold short. Not being taught the basic skills.
Right.
And the Muslim Power list, I was in that. And, yeah, and I used to do reader offers in the Evening Standard and the London Magazine, and that was the article that was in the Sunday Times with me and Oswald Boateng.
Right.
Yeah, so that's when we
Wow.
started out.
Wow, Imtaz, I mean, it's just been incredible.
Sorry, it's so hot.
Yeah, no, it's been really fantastic being here. You've kindly given me a glass of sparkling wine, or it might even be champagne, so I'm being slightly distracted by that now. But it's been so good to come here, see the studio, and just to hear a little bit about your story, your remarkable story.
Thank you, yeah.
If people are trying to find you, either they're wanting something that's made for them, or they're interested in any of your work, or just following you, what's the best website address?
www.imtaz.com. Yeah, so just look at IMTAZ.
Brilliant. Well,
Yeah.
wonderful. Thank you so much
you,
for
Rasheed.
inviting me here to the home studio. It's wonderful on this wonderful sunny day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.